What does it take to build a dairy that truly lasts, not just in cows and land, but in values, vision, and family? In this 4-part series with Laval, we are going behind the scenes at Country Aire Farms in Greenleaf, Wisconsin, to explore what makes a generational dairy thrive. Over the following 4 episodes, you'll hear from the next generation on leadership, technology, and growing into management. But before we move forward, we're starting at the beginning. In this episode, brothers Mike and Tom Gerrits share how their father shaped their work ethic, how they led through growth, and how they set the stage for the future of this family farming business. That and more to come here on the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Laval. As a company built on innovation, Laval is committed to finding ways to help dairy farmers do more with less by providing world-leading milking equipment and solutions. We had the opportunity to spend time with brothers Tom and Mike Gerrits at the dairy they were born and raised on. While areas of the dairy have become pictures on the wall, the memories haven't faded one bit for Tom.
I grew up, where my dad was raised. I was raised there as well. We were a little 80-cow dairy going back in the late 60s. Or 80 cows, which was a big farm back then, but we were stanching cows.
Tom's younger brother Mike also has a very clear memory of how things used to be.
Grew up having to do chores in the morning, chores at night, to now basically managing. Milked in a double 10 herringbone style parlor.
Tom shared how this has been a family affair from day one, not only with his father, but his mother and uncle as well.
Every morning when I was a 7-year-old, I had to get up and milk my mama. It was her and I milking, and then Dad would feed cows. We did that for 30 years. It was a life I enjoyed. When you get to work with your parents and your brothers, it's like you're raising your own family, My dad and his brother-in-law built their own parlor, and then we grew to 120 cows.
That 120-cow dairy came with its fair share of hard work taking care of cattle, but also in a different way.
I remember 3-2-1 pouring concrete, 3 gravel, 2 sand, and 1 cement. We did all our own pouring, so that was a big step. Then we started putting up harvesters, and, that was in the 80s, and then we added on. And then we had another wing on that was a beef operation, and that went on for a couple of years, which was not real successful, but we switched it over to a dairy barn. So then we had another 100 cows, and we were around 300 then at the time in the 80s.
Yeah, things have changed a lot at Country Aire.
While things may have changed quite a bit around the dairy, as Mike mentioned, the work never stopped for these brothers. Growing up on the dairy and moving into their ownership roles, the two found their stride in different areas of the operation, including Tom taking care of the cow side and Mike on the crop side, both vital to the overall success of Country Aire Farms. So you're still a cow guy?
Probably since I was born. I just loved cows, and I hated working in land. I just wanted to be with cows.
So when we were visiting with your brother Tom, he talked about always having loved cows, kind of a cow guy.
Yep.
What about you? What did you gravitate toward?
Was more on the cropping side. I loved to watch corn grow, and was in the nutrition side and watching that whole process. And I loved equipment, so I love mechanics, and it was a great fit because Tom loved cows. I loved being outside and doing the field work, so it was a good combination.
So that set you up for a well-balanced partnership as the two of you came back home to the farm.
Absolutely, sure did.
Mike and I bought the cows. We had low milk prices. Dad was doing well. But I think he purposely did it for a reason. To see us suffer.
But with an intention.
With an intention to make you grow.
As Tom shared, their father Bud was intentional on the way he transitioned the boys into their leadership roles. He was tactical and strategic about their success. As the operation progressed through the years, Mike explained how the family took notice of how dairies in other areas were doing things.
In the mid-90s, we took some trips to the Southwest, and they were growing leaps and bounds. We were growing by the hundreds, and they were growing by the thousands, and we thought, well, we're probably going to end up growing by the thousands. So we brought that back home. It was amazing to see what they were all doing down there, only to think that it was coming here soon.
I remember Dad going, we were looking, we were making plans to go to a green site. So he goes, Tom, the only way it's going to work is go off site. And so we went kitty corner from our old site, and here we are today.
Hearing Tom explain the thoughts rolling through his father's head at the time is fun to see come to life. But Mike explains the big decisions weren't without hesitation from Bud.
Trying to convince my dad that, a green site facility was probably something we needed to do because we were pretty blocked up back at the home farm for any growth. So we started our green site in 1998 with a Rotary Parlor, which seemed to be our turning point, if you will, to the growth of Country Aire.
From that decision on, the brothers explain how the trajectory of progress moved rapidly because of that Rotary Parlor installation.
And we put up a piler and a 700-foot barn and started milking 900 cows. And it was a 40-stall internal rotary.
Back in the mid-90s, for me, it did seem like it was a little bit of a stretch.
That was a big step for us, I just remember when the back holes and the cranes and everything came rolling in for that first day. My dad goes, God, I hope we're making the right decision. My dad was always ahead of the game, and he always had foresight. But it worked out a lot, so it's pretty cool.
While Tom can now look back and make light of the choices they made at the time, this was no easy financial move for the dairy. Mike explains how their dad put the faith and trust in him and his brother.
So, your dad was a forward thinker.
Yes, very much so.
What did it take to get him on board with thinking that far into the future?
Well, obviously the money was an important factor at that time. He was, like you said, a very forward thinker, and he knew and we knew that we were going to grow together. My brother liked cows, so it seemed like a good fit, and the growth continued and started with a Rotary Parlor.
Tom explains that this was the first rotary milking parlor in the area, meaning people were watching closely to see what it was all about, and their father Bud was very aware of that.
When we put it in, cow flow was phenomenal. It was really neat to see. But the parlor, Dad put it in because no one else had it, and he wanted to show everybody we could use it and make it work. But the best part was my dad enjoyed when people come and saw, from other foreign countries, and he could use it for a tool for other farmers.
Building the Rotary in 1998 was our most pivotal, I think. Just the fact that the growth that we could start and finish from whether that was 500-600 cows now to the current 7,000-8,000. I think my dad was a very early adapter, and we jumped on his bandwagon when it came to making a big move here at Country Aire.
As Mike explains, their father was a very forward thinker who continued to look to the future and think about the progress of the dairy. That forward-thinking mindset carried on to Mike and his brother Tom, from advancements in milking such as the rotary system to other technologies that the dairy pursues to this day.
Obviously, technology's been huge for us. We have a John Deere Ops Center. We have the robotic arms, the TSRs, the rumination collars. A lot of those technologies have, changed the dairy industry.
Not only on the cropping side for Mike, but technology continues to advance for Tom on the cow side.
Rumen function every day. I didn't have that. I went off the naked eye, the cow is sick. I knew, if she's skinny, breathing heavy, you knew something was wrong. But today, with so many cows, it's just a great tool to handle. I see my son work with it, and he brings data up that blows my mind. And the data today is so 1 second thing, you can get it every second of the day, and that's I didn't have that.
While Tom compares the technology of today to the resources he had growing up, it's fair to say that things have changed rapidly over the years, not only for nutrition and milking, but there's another key area of the dairy that has been vital to this operation.
Me being on the cow side, I thought genomics was a big thing for this dairy. And the genetic growth I see today from when we started is phenomenal. It's a great way of catching your top end right away. You're 6 weeks into the calf's life, and you know right away if it's good or bad, or it's going to be your top 10%. And that's the beauty of that. I use that genomics as a tool for finding my weaknesses. I like to get the milk. We can get milk, but in order to get the milk, you got to create longevity as well for your cows. And whether it's the legs or the udder or that, those are things you got to look at as you grow.
When you were putting that focus on genetics and developing good, solid cows with consistent conformation, really what you were also doing was setting this herd up for the future. And what the future has looked like for you here is 2 of your boys that are now partners and owners,
Right.
and 2 nephews, 4 of that next generation that chose to come back to be here. Did you always see 4 next generation dairymen from your family?
I was guaranteed 2. The 2 young ones we knew were coming back. They talked right up to their senior year of college of going, Nicholas was in business and accounting, and Matt was in, with the health.
Both brothers can agree that you can plan as much as you wish, but life happens, and in this case, sometimes it's for the better.
My first son, Matthew, obviously went off. He wanted to be a doctor, and weren't expecting Nick or Matt to come back, and both ended up back.
It was crazy. A week before they graduated, they talked to us. We want to come back to the farm.
Really?
And I'm like, Mike and I looked at each other, where the hell are we going to put them?
So we were a little bit surprised, and they had asked for a spot here at the farm, and we really didn't know where they were going to fit in.
Mike and I looked at each other and go, now what are we going to do?
So at that time, we kind of stuck them in, and everything worked.
Luckily, as Mike said, everything worked out for the family dairy, but the trickiest part was yet to come. Tom explained how it's one thing to bring the boys back to the dairy, but each are different people. And that brought out the challenge of finding the best fit for not only each individual, but for the future of this family business.
But we let them come on, find their roles.
We didn't know where the boys were going to end up.
And it was some of our weaknesses that they made our strengths.
So that was a pretty big moment when those 2 threw you and your brother for a loop and said, we want to come back.
Yeah. It was scary, but I'm glad they did.
It's brought great joy to me. It's brought great joy to my dad. And that'll never go away. And I hope they can continue with their sons to do that same thing, to watch them grow. And that's been really exciting for me.
Like Mike said, they were proud to see the pieces come together. But that wasn't without strategic lessons being taught by the brothers and tough lessons being learned by each of the sons joining the operation.
So when you look at that time of bringing them back into the operation, were there certain things that were important to you and Tom to be able to set forth for them, to be able to maybe test out their skills in some areas, start to give them some management experience and a taste of what it's like to own a dairy? What did that look like?
So about 15 years ago, we went looking for land to the west of us, and coincidentally, a 600 cow dairy had come up for sale, and we had purchased that, not knowing the boys were coming back, but that was our stepping stone because they each spent 2 years there, and okay, we got to find out what these guys are made of, the boys are made of, and they each had to manage that dairy for 2 years. So that was a stepping stone for them to come into the dairy.
And so what was that kind of a way of, you said, see what they're made of. You're like, let's throw them to the wolves a little bit and let them figure it out? Or
Yep.
was there a lot of, hand-holding guidance that came with it?
There was a little bit of advice given, but, if they were going to make a mistake, it was okay to make a mistake, which we all do. And, there were some mistakes made along the way, but they recovered great. And it was on a smaller scale that we just didn't throw them to a 4,000 cow dairy, expect them to, march on. That wasn't the case.
So it became your training site.
Yes, it was. Yeah, for 8 years, it was our training site.
What I like about the boys is they ask questions. I didn't get to where I am because of me, because I was surrounding myself with great people, nutritionists, vets, bankers, processors. You learn from them people. Your peers are what you surround your life with.
While the brothers wanted the boys to learn lessons of leadership by managing the second site, they were also learning relationship-building lessons, as Tom mentioned. Each and every lesson was crucial to their success, not only because the business continued to grow, but also because the sons didn't grow up managing the various areas of a dairy.
They really grew up not necessarily in the dairy side of it. They didn't milk a cow. They didn't know too much about dairy, really, until they came back and went to that site. So
let's talk about that for a minute, Mike, because what I have come to notice more and more is that there's a generation that's coming back to the farm right now across, this is nationwide, or will be making those decisions in the next few years. And they grew up in a setting on a dairy that really was not suitable for them to just jump in a parlor or jump on a tractor like you did when you were a kid, like I did when I was a kid.
Right.
And so some of those skills of just knowing cows and knowing equipment and making mistakes and learning along the way that happened to you when you were 12, it's different.
Mhm.
And so I want to just focus on that for a moment, because this is not an isolated thing. This is a very widespread conversation that I have with a lot of producers. So what would you say to someone else who's in that boat right now?
Let them make mistakes. I mean, mistakes are okay, because if they don't make mistakes, they're never going to learn from what they did, right or wrong. And I think we instilled that in all 4 of the boys as they were growing up here.
The first year we were farming, it was horrible for us. But that experience made us better today.
Tom shares how failure is a huge part of learning in any situation, and their father knew that. But the lessons Tom and Mike were teaching their sons looked a bit different because the structure of the operation had changed.
You think about it, it started as my dad as one owner, then Mike and I as 2, and now we have 6. When they first all came on, it's like, okay, now we got to define the roles.
Yeah.
So and then you got to let them, you just don't do that in a week. It takes a couple of years.
Again, it's a process, and I give you and Mike both a lot of credit with being willing, because if there's one thing that stalls a lot of these transitions, it's the willingness of the senior generation to allow for releasing some control,
Right.
and empowering decision making.
I've been blessed to watch my dad do it the way he did it. He did it in stages, and I did it, I'm doing it the way he did.
Yeah.
And it's worked out.
So, let's talk about your dad for a moment. He was a pretty impactful guy in the industry, wasn't he?
Yeah.
My dad obviously was just huge in the political arena of, dairy in Wisconsin.
He showed you how to do this.
He did.
Yeah.
And he was
He didn't just care about Country Aire Farms. He cared about everybody in the industry.
Okay. Yeah. Dad he did it right.
He kind of paved the way for me to get into the legislative side and political side of agriculture.
We gotta do this over. I gotta catch myself.
He was a strong advocate for agriculture.
He taught us core values, the faith, giving back. he did it right. He was amazing around people.
Their father played a huge role in the shaping of not only their lives and the lives of their families, but Country Aire as an operation. But Tom mentions that he wasn't the only one teaching them lessons throughout the years.
And my mom gets a lot of credit too. I just don't want to give it all to Dad. So.
The lady that you spent all your mornings milking.
Yeah. She taught us how to work. So.
Yeah. So you learned how to work, but you also learned how to think. And you learned how to look at cows, and you learned how to treat people.
Yeah.
With those vital life lessons and trust being passed down from their parents, it's now Tom and Mike's time to put their trust in the boys. Staying involved is a big priority for Mike, and as the brothers are navigating a business relationship with their sons, they're continuously looking to the future.
I feel pretty comfortable now with the boys being back that we can continue to keep growing.
When I knew 5 years ago the boys were in it, I just felt it was my time to step back and let them grow. And you got to do that with the next generation. Otherwise, it's going to be for sale.
I still want to be very involved, and I will stay involved as long as the boys want me to, because I do have some more things I would like to get done before I hang up my hat.
With a solid foundation and a bright future ahead for their sons, it's inspiring to hear the excitement and eagerness in both Mike and Tom's voices when they talk about what the dairy has been, what it is now, and what it could be moving forward.
I see the growth of the dairy continuing, 15, 20,000 cows maybe someday. I love the industry, yes.
I love the industry.
Yeah. Somebody says, "Oh, do you really like farming?" I says, "No, I love farming. And if you don't love it, you probably shouldn't be in it, because you need to love it. Where does it go from here? I'm sure it doesn't stop here."
And so does that excite you?
Very much, yeah. I love the challenge.
All this to say, their father Bud would be as proud as a dairyman could be to see what has been built and what continues to grow right here in Greenleaf, Wisconsin.
And he'd be really proud today. Seeing 4 sons, 4 grandsons. So.
But if he could see Country Aire today, not just the aerial view, but the view of 2 sons and 4 grandsons that are here, what do you think he would say?
Wow. And he would be so proud of what the accomplishments were made from not only Tom and I, but our sons. That was his biggest thing in life, was to watch his 2 boys grow up on the family farm, continue. And as you can see, the pictures around the office show that his grandfather and his great-grandfather were here. And for me to look down the road and see that happen to my sons and their sons would be a great accomplishment.
He'd be so proud, buddy.
Yes, yeah.
You just heard from Mike and Tom Gerrits of Country Aire Farms, a legacy built on hard work, forward thinking, and faith in the future. Next time we sit down with their sons, the next generation now leading the charge. Stay tuned, and thanks for listening to the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. Don't forget to follow, rate, review, and share wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Peggy Coffeen, and as always, keep on growing, keep on learning, and up-leveling your dairy. This episode is brought to you by Laval. As a company built on innovation, Laval is committed to finding ways to help dairy farmers do more with less by providing world-leading milking equipment and solutions.